Hello there, welcome to Bryan Lomax Movie Talk and my top 5 horror movies of 2018. Now it must be said, going into this right up front, I haven't seen every horror film that was released in 2018, and actually with regards to my usual level of film viewing, this year has been a bit down on the quota, shall we say. Like previous years, I've had a cinema pass. For most of this year I did, but I got rid of it for various reasons, and I've not really seen as many movies, new releases, as I have done in previous years. So there are quite a few films out there that have still escaped me, that I've not got to. So yeah, do bear that in mind when I give you this list. However, of the films that I have seen, this is my top 5. I think last year I did a top 10, and I think the reason it's a top 5 this year and not a top 10 is for that reason, is that actually probably not seen enough to warrant doing a pure top 10. So yeah, let's get into it. At number 5, it's Hereditary. Now this is a strange one for me, because this is a film that I will probably never watch again. It's a film where I didn't like the ending, and for me that's a big thing with films, is the ending. You can have a film that is somewhere in the middle and be completely saved by a great ending, but you can have a spectacular film, a film that does everything right, and if that ending to me sucks, it's the worst thing, and that's how I felt about this film. On this list, from this top 5, I think when it comes to the direction, this one is probably the most expertly directed. I've probably not seen a horror film that is this well directed for a long time. Well, probably not since It Follows, if I'm being perfectly honest. And if you didn't like It Follows, then that probably tells you where we are in relation to each other with regards to horror, because I thought It Follows is one of the best horror movies of the last 20 years. Like I say, I think this one would be as well if the ending didn't lose me. This is a film without hope. I did an essay on this over on my other channel, The Movie Evangelist, that kind of went into the reasons why the ending was a problem for me. But ultimately it is that idea that this is a film that shows you a lot of darkness and no hope. Like no hope. It's like Trainspotting without the guy going off at the end and choosing life. This is Requiem for a Dream. Basically, it goes downhill, 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 and then falls off a cliff. That's the way I feel about it. You get put through the ringer. Like I say, I think it's perfectly executed with regards to the scares, because this is one of the scariest films I've ever seen. For me personally, I know that's a subjective thing. There may be people who've seen it who think, don't know what he's so afraid of, didn't scare me one bit, fine, whatever. Can only come at it from my experience, and it did. Out of the 5 films on this list, this is the scariest. So, the way I'm selling it, you'd be thinking, why isn't it on its number 1 then? That's just weird. It is that ending. It is that ending. For me, if you're going to show so much evil, you need to show some hope as well. You need. It was too much, I guess. I think if that's your thing for horror movies, then great. For me, not so much. I need a ray of hope, even if it's just a little bit, and there wasn't any. But as I say, everything else perfectly executed. At number 4, we've got Bird Box. This is a Netflix film. It is the most recent addition to this list. I saw it a couple of days before making this video, in fact, and yeah, it's very much in the vein of A Quiet Place. It does have flaws. Like I say, it's not as flawlessly executed as Hereditary. The reason it's higher than Hereditary, and this will be the last time I say this, just assume this is the case for all the other films on this list. The only reason it's higher is because I will watch it again. I got more enjoyment out of it. It hit certain buttons that Hereditary couldn't hit because of that hopelessness that pervaded the whole film. Here, this is a film that does have hope. You know, it's a film that is all about this woman who didn't want children but has ended up with two of them. One of them her own, one that is kind of, she's had no choice but to adopt, and she's living in a world of hell right now, and she's literally trying to keep these children alive, and she spends much of the film staying detached from these kids because in her mind that's the best way to keep them alive. But the film shows us that actually if you're not living, then you've got no life at all, and yeah, that's really what it's about. That's a message I can get behind. It's a message that touches me a lot more. Yeah, and I just think it was a really great Netflix film. Like I say, it's not perfect. There are some issues, but I think the central performance by Sandra Bullock really carries the show. Number 3 for me is Overlord. This is a film that I didn't really know a right lot about going in. A few of my YouTube buddies, Lee McCoy, Cody Leach, CP, they started talking it up a bit, asking if I'd seen it. So I'm like, all right, I better go and see this film. I went and saw it, and I thought it was brilliant. I did. I really loved it. It was a roller coaster ride. On top of that, it's also a really effective war film. You know, it takes place during the Second World War. And if you took out the horror elements, the more fantastical horror elements, obviously war itself is a horror story. You know, you can make a war film without zombies and it would still be a horror film in that sense, that, you know, the horrors of war. But like I say, yeah, if you take out those horror elements, the zombie stuff, this is still a really effective war film. Which is very surprising. I think Kurt Russell's son as well, very good in this. Wyatt, I think his name is, Wyatt Russell. I could be wrong on that. Memory, tricky thing. But yeah, really like him in this, although his character does do some rather dubious things. And again, that's the war element. You know, it's a trope with war films where you get a platoon, you follow them into the wartime situation, and sometimes they do things that is morally repugnant, and there may even be a justification for that given the circumstances, and there is that conflict there. How far should you go? This, that and the other. So I really like that stuff. Like I say, very effective war film, but you throw zombies in there, you throw all these military experiments in there, it just becomes this fantastical horror film, and I think it works on pretty much every level. I didn't have too many gripes with it, to be honest. I think maybe it gets a little bit too far in the kind of super heroic kind of way of things towards the end, like, yeah, characters being turned into these physical super paragons. But yeah, beyond that, I loved every minute of it. And number 2 is A Quiet Place. This is a film that I saw the trailer for and thought, this is going to be rubbish. It's not going to work. The concept is just too stupid. There's no way this family can go completely silent. You've got kids, this, that and the other. No, it's not going to work. The trailer was just stupid. And then I went to see the film and it worked. You know, it's just... Credit to the writer, the director, the star of the film. He just, yeah, he nailed it. He convinced me. That's the thing. When you can take such a high concept, such a ridiculous concept, and you can make it work, you can convince me of it on screen, then that takes some skill. Like I say, there's a film on this list already, Bird Box, which I thought was very much like this in many ways. I wouldn't call it a rip-off at all, because it was made far too close to, you know, the two films were made far too close together for one to be a rip-off. I think it's just unfortunate timing, and I think Bird Box will get those A Quiet Place comparisons. I think it will plague it. I think that will be its downfall. People will always say, oh, remember that kind of, yeah, Quiet Place rip-off, and it's just timing, just bad timing. But as it stands, A Quiet Place is the better film. Obviously, I've put it at number 2, so that's obviously what I think. But yeah, love the creature design on it. I love the performances, particularly Emily Blunt. Some of her sequences are really nail-biting, especially the bathtub sequence. There are a couple of times when some characters make some stupid decisions. I suppose you could justify that with adrenaline, heat of the moment, fear, that kind of thing. But yeah, just on the surface of it, a couple of times, that's a bit dumb. But beyond that, yeah, almost flawlessly executed. So yeah, brilliant film, Quiet Place, number 2. And so my number 1 horror film of 2018, also my favourite film, period, of 2018, is Annihilation. Like, science fiction is my favourite genre. Horror is definitely up there as well. I do a lot of horror content on my channel, but for me, the best films I find, the ones that I really gravitate towards, are the ones that mesh those two genres. Some of my favourite movies, a lot of my favourite movies of all time, are sci-fi horrors, horror sci-fis. You know, when you mix those two genres together, something special can really happen when they're done right. And this film is a prime example of that. It's an all-female cast practically, other than Oscar Isaac and a couple of others. You know, if you're looking for a strong female-led movie that doesn't do it in a way that is highly political, but is more natural and just called for it rather than forced. Oh, let's force some politics into this film by doing an all-female cast. This film doesn't do it. It calls for female leads. It feels natural, it feels right, and we get some great characterizations, some really good stuff. But yeah, just the themes as well. This is another film that I did an essay on over on my Movie Evangelist channel. Just the way it deals with the theme of a new creation. This idea that actually man is such a sinful creature that we're actually destroying ourselves by the choices we make. That the only way out of that is to become something new. You know, is to change entirely. Maybe even right at a genetic level, whatever. So just, yeah, brilliant film, absolutely fantastic. I love Alex Garland. It's fast becoming one of my favourite filmmakers. You know, Sunshine, he wrote, one of my favourite sci-fi horror movies of all time. And Ex Machina as well. Cannot wait to see what this guy is going to do next. But yeah, there you go. That is my top 5 horror films of 2018. If you've not checked out Annihilation yet, please do, because it's awesome. And it just, yeah, didn't get enough love when it came out. Or at least it did by the people who saw it, but it just didn't get enough people seeing it. So check it out. Yeah, instead of complaining about crap movies that we get and then ignoring the brilliant ones that we have, like this. So yeah, Annihilation for me, like I say, best film of the year, not just horror. But what about you? What are your top 5 horror movies of 2018? Please do leave your lists down below. Let me know your thoughts on mine. And until next time, cracking.